Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Manifesting Muslimah. I'm your host, Zara Pedersen, and today we're going to talk about how logic gets in the way of your manifestation. But before I do that, I do want to take a moment to apologize about last week. I know that I said I was going to do an episode on Thursday, but I was in the middle of moving house here in Spain, and I might actually do another episode on this if you're interested in it. But while I was moving, I was receiving so many signs from Allah, like that, yes, it is absolutely certainly time for you to move on from here. And one of those things was that the electricity was cut out it actually happened on Wednesday morning, just after I prayed Fajr, and I was sitting and doing my dua, and I didn't actually notice that the electricity had gone out, because I just thought, I'm really into the groove. I can only just barely see what I'm doing, and I was like, wow, I must really be tired, but at the same time I'm really into it. And then when I finished, I was like, oh no, wait a minute, the electricity cut out, and I couldn't get it back on again. And so I actually can record an episode for you on Thursday, and it did bother me a little bit, but again, there was some other things that were sort of going on in the background. And again, I can kind of talk to this, maybe I'll record that right now after I've recorded this episode, about signs from Allah when it's time to move on and things like that Allah does to sort of push us forward. Yes, actually, in fact, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to stop talking about that now, and that is an episode that you can look forward to hearing this Thursday, inshallah. But that is not what we're talking about today. Today, what we're talking about is logic, and how your logical mind, sometimes your ego, can get in the way of your manifestation. And often, if it doesn't entirely stop the manifestation, it certainly will slow down the manifestation significantly. So here's the thing about using the law of attraction and generally just having faith, tawakkul, having a religion, believing in God subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is that logic, reason, these kinds of things don't always apply, because we know we're dealing with a deity that goes beyond and far surpasses logic and reason. That is one of the elements of having faith, is having, an understanding that while we cannot necessarily logically understand or reason for God Almighty, we still believe and know that He exists, and that He is all powerful, and He's the creator of the universe and us, and that we are His servants. So it's a massive component, and the same goes, of course, for a lot of the universal laws that He has also created, and within this falls the law of attraction. And when we're using the law of attraction and manifestation, a lot of these practices come down to faith, belief, and that is faith and belief beyond necessarily faith or belief in something that has been proven, or that you are certain of, beyond what your desire is telling you to want for. So when we're asking for more money, when we're asking for a specific partner, when we're asking for an elevation in one place in our lives, or something in one area or another, sometimes it's not because we know we've done it before. Sometimes it's an elevation or another level of what we're wanting that we've never achieved before. However, the art of the law of attraction is to believe in the certainty of that outcome, because while we cannot see how it is supposed to come into our lives, we understand that we have a creator that far surpasses our own abilities, that can create these things for us and introduce them into our lives. And so when we're using logic in this equation, we often slow ourselves down. And I'm going to use a couple of examples today. So the first one we're going to talk about, my favorite example, you already know what's coming, is money. Money, 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 money. When we're using money, or when we're using logic to try and manifest money, we very often restrict our ability to receive more money, to earn more money, to save more money, to have more money, to feel safe around money, even when the money comes in, to to hold on to that money and not, it being squandered away, because we often will set parameters and restrictions around how money is allowed to come into our lives. I very recently, it was a couple of weeks ago, I was in one of my membership meetings. Again, if you haven't checked those out, you should definitely click the link in the show notes and check out the membership and sign up. It is such an amazing community in there. But I was talking to one of the members about receiving and how her understanding of receiving was very limited because she only allowed herself to believe in receiving from certain avenues. Now, that is a restriction because we're using logic quite often there. It's like, yeah, but I can't receive from you because you're a stranger. I can't receive from them because they don't know me. You can't receive from this because I'm not a charity. You can't receive from X, Y, and Z, right? So we make these arguments and restrictions upon ourselves that often limits our ability to receive the blessings in whatever shape and form they might come into our lives in. And alhamdulillah, she has worked through that. We've had long conversations and she has now been able to let go of those restrictions for herself and been able to put herself in a far more enjoyable position financially, where she is allowing herself to receive without judgment. And that is a beautiful thing. But that is where logic often comes in and restricts our ability to fully receive the blessings that we're looking for, because we're restricting it. It often also means that we stop ourselves from taking necessary action. For instance, if you work a job where you know that you cannot earn more per hour or per month, there's a sort of a limit to how much you can earn in whatever position you're working. Again, logically speaking, using your reason and reasonable sort of thinking, you'll say to yourself, but I can't make more money. No, but Zara, you don't understand. I literally cannot make more money. This is what my employer is willing to pay me, and I'm already being paid, the most that I can be paid in this position, but I don't want to quit the job, whatever. I'm quite happy working there. So what's my, I couldn't possibly make money from make more money even if I wanted to. And again, that is using logic. Yes, 100%, that probably would be a big restrictor, but that is again looking only at what we are able to perceive as options for us. So we then don't put ourselves out there further. We don't take more action. We're not aligning ourselves with more money in our lives, meaning ultimately we are blocking and restriction the blessings that could potentially come from other avenues. You never know. There could be a bonus. There could be a person who passes away. Not that that's a thing that we want, but these things can happen. It doesn't have to be a family or anybody close. It could be someone you never heard of, but they know about you. And then they're like, hey, I want to leave some money for you. I know that sounds absolutely ludicrous, but it has happened. It can be that your position all of a sudden has like an influx of money coming in from headquarters, and so they're allocating a different position. They're opening a new position that pays more. It could be that there's an opportunity for you to take more hours. It could be that you then start your side hustle, and that actually far surpasses the income that you're making at your other job, or it just supplements exactly with what you need on a daily, monthly, weekly, whatever basis of income that you're looking to achieve. But the point that I'm trying to make here is, if we're using our logic and saying, well, my job position will not allow me more money, I'm already earning what I can earn, and let's say I'm too tired to take on a second job, and I don't really know what I should be doing as a side hustle. We're then not looking for the opportunities for where that other money could come from. We're no longer opening our horizons, our perspective to the blessings to come in. So we're blinding ourselves from seeing the opportunities that Allah will try and put in front of us. And that is where we're then blocking the manifestation from coming in, because Allah hears us. He hears every single dua and He answers every single dua. But the thing that Allah doesn't do is, when we say, I want a big yellow elephant, He's not going to send a big yellow elephant walking down the road. But what He might do, because as far as I'm aware, there's no such thing as a yellow elephant. But I am not a biologist or whatever you want to go. Is that a biologist? I don't know. I'm not Steve Irwin, and that says something about my age. So I don't know if there's like a very rare yellow variant of an elephant or whatever. But let's just say there's no such thing, of course. So you're not going to see the yellow elephant walking down your street. But what you might see is a book with a yellow elephant, or you might see a shop called the Yellow Elephant. And in that shop or in that book might be some information or something that you're looking for. So again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might send it via other roads so that you yourself have to use your discernment and your choices, your decision making to choose that thing and to choose that avenue and that road, because that is the point of free will, that Allah does not impose upon us even the blessings. We still have to choose our own blessings, because we can choose not to. We can choose the suffering, we can choose the victimhood, we can choose that kind of mentality where woe is I, instead of saying I choose to open my horizons, I choose to have a different perspective and outlook. And so when I'm asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a thing, I also understand that I have to be fully aware of the different avenues that it can come from and not get stuck on only one thing. And that is the one thing that logic arguably does, is it makes us only focus on the thing that we know to be true right here in front of us right now, not knowing how, or understanding or seeing how another aspect that we hadn't even thought of could possibly be the thing that'll bring the blessing into our life. I want to use another example from another one of the ladies in my membership who was looking to change schools for her sons, and she was working really hard. She'd made the decision, she was very clear now, and she'd made the dua and she'd done all the things, and she'd taken intentional action and asked, called around, sent emails to try and find, another tutor for her sons and all of these things. And she had no luck whatsoever. And then at the 11th hour, subhanallah, this is absolutely amazing. It continues to baffle my mind. And again, it baffles in the good way, because it doesn't baffle me because I know this is what I teach. I know this because I see it all the time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and people using the law of attraction and intentionally knowing what they want, getting clear on it, clearing the resistance, setting their intentions, taking actions, making the dua and all of these things, and allowing Allah to come in and bless them. I see it all the time. So when I say it continues to amaze me, it's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala amazes me on a daily basis, But what happened was, on the 11th hour, she thought, oh gosh, I'm going to have to send them back to the old school because nothing is happening. A person she hadn't spoken to, I wouldn't even, as far as I could understand on the story, this person wasn't even a friend. It was an old client of hers that she hadn't spoken to for 2 years, had somehow been informed that she was looking for a tutor for her kids for a new schooling situation. And she just happened to hear about this. How? I don't know. Allahu alam. I have no clue how she found out. My client doesn't have a clue how she found out about it either. But she happened to be like, oh my goodness, I can actually help her in this situation. And so she ended up calling my client, the member in my membership group, and referring her to this woman who was the perfect fit for her children, to tutor her children. Subhanallah, this member of mine, my client, would never have thought that this woman that was a client of hers, a couple of years ago, would call her and even find out that she was looking for a new schooling situation for her children. But she ended up being the person who came with the solution. Would logic have got her to that point in her thinking? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Logic would not have got her to the point where she would have thought, maybe I should ring and contact all of my clients from the last couple of years and see if any of them know someone, because this person wasn't the actual person. She just knew someone who could, solve the problem for my client, So logic would never have got her to the answer that she was looking for, which was in a person she'd known a couple of years ago, who wasn't even a friend, but I would call maybe an acquaintance, right? But again, this is where logic will get in the way of Allah bringing the possibility of something into our life. It is always the funniest ways, the most, well, not always, because sometimes it'll come from the avenues that we expect, but quite often, Allah wants us to have this faith, this tawakkul, to know and trust in His ways, so much so that we surrender fully to His will and how it's going to come in. Because quite often, when we're asking for something that is completely new in our life, something we've never had before, it usually has to come from an avenue we've never, ever seen or know was there to begin with for us, was available for us. And so our logic will never take us there because it doesn't know that it exists. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, knows that it exists, which is why we have to be able to release this sense of wanting to logically reason our way to our manifestation. You might want to manifest more money, but you can't do it in your current job. But that does not mean that that is the end of the road. Release your expectations as to how the money is going to come for you and allow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring the opportunity in, whether it be from you finding money, I was going to say winning the lottery, but we don't gamble as Muslims, but I don't know, maybe you have like one of those, I can't remember what they're called, but it's like I know it from the Arabic culture, and I was recently told as well, they also exist in the Pakistani culture where, you come together, you put £1,000 or whatever in a pot, and every now and again, you'll divide it up between you, and so one person will get it, another person will get it the next year, or whatever, however it goes. And that could be the way that you get it. It could be that a friend of yours comes into a lot of money and decides to, share and be very abundant with their money to other people. It could be a new position opening up. It could be whatever. And we don't even know the avenues in which these things are going to come. And that is the exciting thing about it. And this is the exciting thing about using the law of attraction. It allows us to let go of the 3D from our own perspective. It allows us to let go of only the things that we can see, hear, smell, feel, touch, taste. It allows us to let go of that and say, I don't have to know where it's going to come from to know that it will come to me. As long as I remain an open vessel and I do what I can to make sure that I am aligning myself and my intentions are set correctly, and I take the action to, maybe look for another job or ask around, or I don't know, whatever it might be that is correct for you in that situation, tell people about it, whatever, then Allah will find a way to introduce it into my life. But the last thing I need to do and should be doing is to use logic to argue why and where and how this thing is going to come into my life, because usually that's not how it'll work. I've actually only very, very rarely, even for myself in my own manifestations, being able to manifest like sort of like a one-to-one, like this is where I wanted it to come from and it came from there. Usually it's sort of like I think and I'm hoping maybe it'll come from there, but then the experience and the blessing itself and the receiving of it will come from an avenue that far surpasses my expectations in a much better way that allows me to receive it much better and with more blessings, with less friction, and so on and so forth. And that is why you should stop using logic to argue or to reason your blessings. And I know this can be very, very difficult to begin with. And this is why I've always said manifestation and using the law of attraction is like using a muscle. You need to work your way up, because ultimately, if you don't believe it, it's, again, a roadblock. It's so much harder for you to manifest it because you're not allowing yourself to fully trust and believe in the manifestation. And so you don't align yourself fully. You don't take the actions fully. You're willing to settle, you're willing to negotiate, you're willing to do things maybe that's not aligned for you to get the blessings. And then that is again where logic then comes in, and we're basically blocking ourselves instead of saying, but Allah has no limitations and Allah's ways are not logical all the time. We have to be able to see beyond that and then open ourselves up as the recipients of the blessings from an almighty God that works beyond what we are even slightly capable of understanding. So that is what I have for you today. I hope there was something in there for you. I hope that you received this at a time that you need it. I often find that a lot of us tend to kind of fall back onto logic and reason quite often. So a little reminder here and there has never hurt. So I hope that this episode have found you at a time, again, leading up to Laylatul Qadr, that maybe you're using a lot of logic and reason to restrict your du'as and what you're asking Allah for. So this is your reminder to let go of logic and reason. Think big, dream big, ask Allah for something big, and have faith that even if you don't know how this blessing is going to come into your life, Allah has already seen the thousands of ways in which He can introduce that blessing into your life without you even having to bat an eyelid. All right, my darling, that's it for this episode. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, whatever you're doing. And until next time, my darling friend, please don't forget to live in love.